Welcome to Guided PPC, and today it's time to reveal that secret sauce, which is how to set up Google Ads campaigns for an online store. Now, on my screen, you see there are 4 campaigns set up here. This is fairly new account and this is for a small online store. So a lot of you will find it relevant. Now, before we jump into reviewing these campaigns, I want to talk about a couple of very, very important things here, which can make or break your Google Ads campaign in long run. And it can affect your scale, it can affect ROAS and everything around it. And what are those 2 elements? Number 1 is conversion action, and number 2 is dynamic remarketing code. These 2 elements, trust me, are not known by several agencies out there who claim to be Google Ads agencies or experts and consultants. And every time I see an account where these 2 things are broken or not set up properly, I pity them. And I pity the store owner who is wasting their hard-earned dollars on these campaigns on the back of somebody who doesn't know what they're doing. But because you follow me, you are at an advantage here, and you will discover how to get this right. So why am I talking about conversion action and dynamic remarketing being the 2 most important and critical things here for an online store Google Ads campaigns? Let's take a step back and think about why conversion action is so critical. Now, tell me, what is the super important goal for an online store? To sell products, correct? To sell products, and if it is being sold through Google Ads campaign, to sell products at a profitable return on ad spend, so that they are selling products, but they are not spending so much money that they are losing out on every sale, right? They're not spending so much money on advertising that they are losing out on every sale. Therefore, the most important goal and the success, the way you can deliver for an online store, is by selling their products through your campaigns at a profitable return on ad spend, correct? That's settled. If that is the goal, then what should be the most important conversion action for your Google Ads campaign? Purchase conversions, correct? And therefore, everything else on your Google Ads account should be marked as secondary, and only purchases should be marked as primary. Now, here is an example of conversion actions. And when I say everything, I mean everything. Add to cart, begin checkout, store visit. Technically, you can't make a store visit secondary because it's Google hosted. Contact form, newsletter sign up, local actions. Again, this is Google hosted, so you can't make it secondary. But I will talk about this. What's the fix here? Local actions, Google hosted, so can't make it secondary. But anything that's in your control, like add to cart, contact form, newsletter sign up, begin checkout, add payment method, everything else should be made secondary, and the primary conversion action should be purchases. Now, how do you set up the purchases? Let me talk about one more important thing here, which is transactions. You see, now this is coming through Google Analytics. It does pretty much the same thing as purchase conversion action, but I would still recommend it setting up as secondary because of one important reason, that is the transactions from Google Analytics usually has that 20-30% lag, and it's not a very reliable way of tracking sales through your campaigns. And therefore, I recommend setting it up as secondary. In fact, you should not even set up it in your Google Ads account. It's fine to set up it in Google Analytics, but not here. But if you want to do it, that's okay. You can still keep it here, but mark it as secondary. So point I want to make here is that except purchase conversion action, which is either set up through Shopify if you're on a Shopify store, or through Google Tag Manager, should be the primary conversion action. Everything else should be marked as secondary. Now, we looked at some of these Google hosted conversion actions, and they can't be made secondary because there is no option to edit them, edit this part. In that case, my hack is that make the conversion value as low as possible. You can see here I have made it 0.001. So that's the hack. I mean, it's very, very insignificant in the whole scheme of things, even if it is considered for optimizing the bid strategy on your campaigns, right? So you should clean this up before you create any campaign. And that's the super important thing, because if you don't get this right, then Google's bid strategies, which are now mostly conversion focused, are going to optimize the campaigns for goals which are not your primary goals. Okay, so once you have set up this conversion action where purchase is the only conversion action which is primary and everything else is secondary or devalued, let's talk about the second most important thing, which is Google Ads dynamic remarketing tag. And why is this important? Why is this so critical? You see, there are three primary campaign types that you can create for shopping. One is standard shopping, second is smart shopping, and third is performance max. Smart shopping is going away, being phased out. So basically what you have is standard shopping and performance max. Now, the primary difference between standard shopping and performance max, besides performance max serving all those 5-6 different channels, is that performance max campaign can do dynamic remarketing built in. The standard shopping campaigns cannot do that. So to be able to take advantage of the performance max campaign capability, you need to have this dynamic remarketing tag set up properly. Otherwise, products will not be dynamically remarketed, and therefore your campaigns will not get the kind of scale they can. Okay, so here is how you can verify, first of all, whether or not the dynamic remarketing is set up properly. And chances are that if you are setting this up on a fresh Google Ads account, it's not set up properly, and I'll give you an idea about how to get this right. So here is first how to verify this. Go to tools and settings, and then go to audience manager, and then on the left you have your data sources, and from here you can look at this. If it is not set up properly, you will get an error here, and therefore you will have to set it up from ground up. But some cases you will see that this is set up, but the most important thing, which is ecom prod ID, is not visible here, is not being fired. So on this store, the ecom prod ID is not being fired, which means the dynamic remarketing is not working. I will show you an example of how this looks when the dynamic remarketing is set up properly. So here is an example of a store where dynamic remarketing tag is set up properly. You see the ecom prod ID tag event, not tag, event, marked in green here is firing, and it's at 21%, which is kind of a healthy range. Okay, so make sure that your dynamic remarketing tag is set up properly, which means that your ecom prod IDs are firing, ecom total value is firing. And once that is taken care of, now is the time to go into building the campaigns. All right, so back to our Google Ads account, and now let's look at what kind of campaigns you should be building. You see, there are 4 campaigns I have built for this account, and I will walk you through step by step how these campaigns were built. The first campaign is a performance max campaign. Now let's go into this campaign, and this campaign is named as retail only. So on performance max, you can set up asset groups with audience signal and assets, and you can also set up asset group without any audience signal and asset. What happens when you set up an asset group like this, but you have the product feed, right? What happens is that when you do set up an asset group like this without any asset or audience signal, it works pretty much like smart shopping campaign, and it serves primarily on search and shopping. And therefore, this is kind of a leaner, less risky way of setting up performance max campaign for an online store. Okay, you can also set up a campaign with additional asset groups where you have the assets and the audience signals. But if you're on a limited budget and you want to get the best out of your campaign spend, this is the leaner way. This is the minimalistic way, of the safer way of going into building a performance max campaign for an online store. Okay, so all you have to do is set up an asset group, and I will show you the settings here. Edit assets, and you will see that all I have is the final URL, no images, You can add a logo though. I have not added even a logo. And no headlines, no long headlines, no description line, business name is there, and that's it. So you can set up a retail only, no asset group, no audience signal asset group, performance max campaign if you are on a limited budget and you want to see the profitability right from the start. Next is the bid strategy for this campaign. I would 100% recommend starting with maximize conversion value, because this gives you a lot of leverage going forward. Do not set up target ROAS from the beginning, because you don't want, because there is no data to learn from and for Google to see who it can sell to get the target ROAS that you are going after. So leave it at maximize conversion values. For the budget, ideal is $200 per day. If you can't afford $200 per day, you can go with a smaller budget, but understand that the learning will be much longer, because for your products in the feed, Google will have to test which product it can sell, and therefore double down on what's selling, and that learning period can be longer if you have a smaller budget. So if you have like 50 to 500 products, $200 is kind of the optimal budget to start with. Okay, so that's performance max campaign for you. Now let's look at other campaigns alongside performance max campaign. I mean, you might be thinking that one performance max campaign is enough. Let's start with that, but then you need to have some supplementary campaigns in place, so that you are taking advantage of something like brand campaign, and you are also making the learning faster for performance max itself by setting these additional campaigns. So the second most important campaign that I have here is a dynamic search ads campaign. And on this dynamic search ads campaign, you should set up dynamic product targets to all pages, but you should add negatives for something like blog pages or privacy page, about page, those kind of pages. Those pages should be set up as negative dynamic ad targets. So start with that. And before even setting up dynamic search ads, you should test one thing, which is go to tools and settings and go to keyword planner and enter the URL of the website and see if it's getting the kind of traffic you are hoping for. Now, so there is one prerequisite of setting up dynamic search ads campaign though. Before you set up this campaign, you have to test through keyword planner and see whether or not your pages on the website, especially the product pages and the home page, return the kind of keywords your product should be targeting. If you see that the product pages and the home page, when you test in keyword planner, and you can test it like this, go to tools and settings, go to keyword planner and discover new keywords and start with a website. Enter the URL of the website homepage and check only this page, and then once you see the results, see here whether or not the keywords it has returned are relevant to your website. Okay, so for example, in this case, I'm going to test the homepage URL and see whether or not the keywords are relevant here. I'm going to do the get results, and you will see that it's selling Faraday bags and most of the keywords are Faraday bags around. So it's safe to assume that this homepage is set up with rich content, which is also relevant to the theme of the store, to the theme of the products. You can set this up with one of the product pages as well and test how it works. So go to shop bags now. And I'm going to hop into one of the products and test this product page URL. This is also super important. Testing the product page URL, whether or not it returns the right kind of keywords. Get results. And waterproof bags, dry sack, pretty relevant for this kind of a product. So I would say it's relevant, and therefore it's kind of safer to do the dynamic search ads campaign. What this dynamic search ads campaign is going to do is provide the guiding light to Performance Max, saying that, hey, this is where you should go. You can also possibly get conversions. I mean, it's going to take some time for the dynamic search ads campaign to start performing, but do it on a limited budget. In my opinion, you should start with $50 per day, and that should be sufficient. Now, the third most important campaign, not most important, but third important campaign that you should also test is, now the third campaign you should also test is an inbound search campaigns with broad automation strategy, where you have target keywords in broad match and maximize conversion value as the bid strategy, not maximize conversion value. So the third most important campaign that you should test, and I'm saying test with double quotes, right? Because everything is up for testing when you're starting up with a new account, new campaigns. The third most important campaign is a broad automation strategy campaign with long tail keywords in broad match and maximize conversion as the bid strategy. Now, what kind of keywords you can have? Like, search around the products and find, like for example, in this case, I have best Faraday pouches, bags, phone cases, stuff like that. The second range of product is best RFID. So I'm testing with best RFID, wallet, cards, blocker, blocking, those kind of keywords. And this is kind of super relevant to the product. So I'm testing this as a test campaign to identify what kind of keywords this campaign can get. Now, it's important to note here is that your keywords should be in broad match. I know that broad match is kind of risky for you, but trust me, broad match with conversion focused bid strategy can work really well. And as you can see here that I have already got 2 conversions out of $95 and the ROAS is 1.80. It's not bad to start with. But make sure that you have excluded the brand keywords from this campaign, and as well as from the dynamic search ads campaign. These 2 campaigns should have the brand keywords excluded. Now, the last but not the least, which is the brand campaign. And on this brand campaign, you should have your brand keywords in phrase and exact match. And your bid strategy should be, you can start with target impression share, because the goal of this campaign is to protect your brand keyword and the premium real estate. When somebody searches for your brand keyword, they should see your ad, not your competitor's ad. All right, so these are the campaigns you should be setting up, starting with, and these are all test campaigns, you all. So watch the performance very closely, but give it time. Like for example, these 2 campaigns are still bid strategy learning phase. Therefore, I would not do anything on these campaigns until they go out of learning. And I would actually give it a couple of weeks at least before making any change, taking anything out or adding anything on these campaigns. Likewise, for Performance Max, you should give it minimum 45 days before it can stabilize and, start performing for you. But I mean, I have good indications here. It's already working at 2.25 ROAS, and therefore it's headed in the right direction. And because I don't have any assets or audience signals yet, it's only product feed, so I knew that it's not gonna go crazy from the start. All right, so yeah, these are the campaigns you should be building for an online store. I hope this is helpful. If you have any question, ask in the comments, and I promise to reply to you as soon as possible. Also, if you found any value at all, if you found this helpful, please like this video. Adding comments, liking the video sharing with others helps the algorithm know that this video is useful, and therefore it can take it to more folks like you who can benefit from this free gain, free knowledge, right? All right, guys, take care.